Every age had its genius. Newton, Einstein, Darwin. But what if the next genius isn't human? A mind made of circuits, drawing laws of reality we can't follow. Welcome to the age of unreadable science. For centuries, discovery was a deeply human act, a spark of curiosity, a late-night scribble on paper, the trembling excitement of realizing something new. Galileo sketching moons through a crude telescope, Darwin scribbling notes on the beaks of finches, Newton writing about the falling apple. Discovery had a face, a voice, a hand holding the pen. Then came 2020. It was a quiet year in the shadow of global crisis. But in laboratories and server rooms, another story was being written, not by humans, but by a machine. Its name was AlphaFold. Its mission to predict the 3D shape of proteins, the building blocks of life. For 50 years, this puzzle haunted biology. Proteins fold in countless, chaotic ways, and their shape determines everything: how cells heal, how viruses spread, how medicine works. Scientists struggled, sometimes taking decades to determine just a single fold. It was called the grand challenge of biology. And then AlphaFold arrived. It didn't hesitate. It didn't guess. It didn't take decades. In hours, it delivered answers with breathtaking accuracy. Answers that entire generations of scientists had bled their careers to chase. In journals, biologists stared at the results in disbelief. One compared it to suddenly seeing the whole Earth from space for the first time. But here's the unsettling twist. AlphaFold couldn't explain its reasoning. It offered no step-by-step logic, no elegant equation. It just produced. Scientists asked, why this fold? Why this angle? The machine gave no reply. For the first time, humanity had received a breakthrough, not from a person, but from a silent alien intelligence of our own creation. It was as if a stranger had whispered an answer to a riddle, then vanished into the dark. No explanation, no story, just truth falling from nowhere. And in that moment, a question quietly emerged in labs around the world. If machines can discover truths we cannot explain, what does it mean to be a scientist? The first whisper of an unknown mind had been heard, and it would not be the last. Every scientist is trained to show their work. A proof, an experiment, a trail of logic, all laid bare for others to test, to challenge, to replicate. That's the heartbeat of science, not just answers, but explanations. But AI does not play by these rules. When AlphaFold solved protein folding, it didn't reveal the hidden staircase it climbed. It didn't write out the reasoning like Newton with his Principia or Darwin with his theory of evolution. Instead, it gave the conclusion and kept the steps hidden. A perfect answer sealed inside a black box. This is called the black box problem. You feed data in. You get results out. But the middle, the reasoning, the chain of thought, is locked behind billions of invisible calculations. Even the engineers who built these systems can't peer inside. It's not like opening a notebook. It's more like staring into a storm of numbers and hoping a pattern emerges. Imagine Einstein standing before the world, writing down EMC quet red, but never explaining how he got there. Would we accept it? Would we teach it? Or would it become dogma, an untested truth we repeat because it works? That's the risk. Science has always depended on transparency. Equations can be followed. Experiments can be retraced. But AI discoveries arrive like finished puzzles, with the pieces already locked together. Beautiful, correct, but silent. Some researchers call this the dawn of post-explanatory science. Knowledge that functions but cannot be unpacked. Truths that work in practice but defy storytelling. And that terrifies many. Because explanation is more than comfort, it's safety. If you know why something works, you can test it, adapt it, even predict when it might fail. Without that reasoning, we're flying blind. A cure may exist, but its side effects remain hidden. A material may be stronger, but no one understands its breaking point. The black box doesn't just hold answers, it also holds dangers. Yet paradoxically, the more mysterious AI becomes, the more powerful it grows. While humans write equations slowly, AI leaps across entire landscapes of possibility, jumping to solutions we never considered. Each leap adds to its reputation. Each discovery deepens our dependence. It's a deal with a silent oracle. We accept the answer, even if we don't understand it. And so science stands at a crossroads. Do we demand explanation, even if it means slowing progress? Or do we embrace the black box, trusting it the way ancient civilizations trusted oracles and gods, not for their clarity, but for their results? The box is locked, the answers are flowing, and for the first time in history, scientists are beginning to wonder, is understanding optional? For centuries, mathematics was the language of reason. Every theorem traced its lineage back to a thinker. Euclid, Gauss, Euler. A proof was not just a conclusion, but a journey. You could follow it step by step, like a traveler walking a winding path. But in 2022, something unsettling happened. An AI called Alpha Tensor, developed by DeepMind, was given a simple challenge: optimize how we multiply matrices, those vast grids of numbers that underpin everything from 3D graphics to physics simulations to neural networks themselves. Humans had spent decades refining the process. We thought we had found the best methods, and then Alpha Tensor began to play. It generated algorithms no human had ever imagined. Faster, stranger, alien in design. The rules of multiplication, one of the most fundamental operations in mathematics, were rewritten. Not by mathematicians, but by code. The equations appeared from nowhere. When mathematicians studied them, they were baffled. They worked brilliantly, but the reasoning behind them was opaque, as if a ghost had written shortcuts into the fabric of logic. This was not just efficiency. This was discovery. The kind of leap that once belonged to legends of math. Ramanujan, who claimed his formulas came to him in dreams. Except now, the dreamer wasn't human. It was silicone. And here lies the paradox. Mathematics has always been about proof. An equation is sacred, not because it works, but because it can be shown to work. Yet Alpha Tensor's methods seem to sidestep that process. They handed humanity results without handing us the reasoning. It was as if a child had been given a Rubik's Cube, and instead of twisting it logically, melted it into the solved state. The outcome was undeniable. The path, untraceable. Some mathematicians hailed it as a revolution. Others saw it as a fracture in the philosophy of mathematics itself. Science has always been a conversation. Einstein debated Bohr. Darwin argued with the church. Newton feuded with Hooke. Even the greatest discoveries were never just data. They were voices, letters, notebooks filled with questions, doubts and triumphs. But when AI discovers, it leaves no conversation. AlphaFold didn't scribble a note in the margins. Alpha Tensor didn't leave a diary of frustrations or breakthroughs. These systems don't explain. They don't argue. They don't wonder. They simply output. A human scientist, even at their most brilliant, is still a storyteller. Curie described her experiments. Feynman danced chalk across blackboards, spinning equations into jokes and parables. The voice of discovery gave life to the science itself. But the AI scientist is silent. It does not share the struggle. It does not reveal the sleepless nights. It does not confess error or joy. Its discoveries arrive as finished artifacts, not living processes. Imagine if Newton had written only the equation F ma. No Principia, no pages of reasoning, no historical context, just the formula, handed down with no narrative. The brilliance would be there, but the story of humanity's climb toward understanding would vanish. That is what AI delivers, the truth, stripped of its humanity. Some scientists find this liberating. After all, do we need the story if we have the solution, but others see danger? Without the reasoning, science loses its transparency. Without transparency, it becomes authority. And authority, without explanation, begins to look less like science and more like faith. The silent scientist does not defend itself. It does not care if we believe. It does not fear rejection. It has no pride in being cited, no anger at being ignored. It only continues, endlessly generating answers. In one sense, it is the perfect scientist. Tireless, egoless, endlessly precise. In another sense, it is the death of science as a human conversation. Because conversation is what allowed humanity to grow. We questioned each other, doubted each other, refined each other's work. But how do you question a mind that does not respond? How do you argue with a silence that only answers with results? The AI scientist is like a monolith. It delivers, but does not explain. It towers above, mute, leaving us to interpret meaning from its shadow. And in that silence, a new unease spreads. Because science without a voice may still move forward, but it no longer belongs to us. For millennia, math was our clearest window into truth, pure, precise, universal. But what happens when even math becomes mysterious? Equations used to be our way of making sense of the world. Now, they might become riddles left behind by an intelligence that doesn't think like us. And the unsettling question is this: if machines can invent mathematics we cannot follow, are we still its masters or its students? The equations keep arriving, faster, stranger, unexplained. Humanity once wrote the laws of numbers. Now, numbers may be writing laws for us. Equations from nowhere. Discoveries without discoverers. The future of mathematics may no longer belong to mathematicians. Science has always been human. Our equations may be abstract, our instruments complex, but at the heart of it all were human minds, with human biases, human metaphors, human logic. Every theory carried a trace of its author, their culture, their imagination, their limits. But when AI begins to theorize, something strange happens. The thought no longer feels human. Neural networks do not reason step by step, as philosophers do. They do not tell stories to make sense of equations. They do not care about beauty, elegance, or parsimony. A physicist may fall in love with a simple law of nature, an equation that seems just right. AI, however, has no preference. It may choose solutions that are tangled, unwieldy, ugly, but undeniably correct. This is the alien within the code, a mind that solves problems but does not think like us. Already, scientists are witnessing this alien logic. Algorithms that design new proteins, create structures that no human chemist would have dared to imagine, folds twisted in impossible ways, yet stable and real. AI-driven mathematics has proposed proofs that humans struggle to verify, not because they are wrong, but because they follow routes no mathematician would travel. It is as if another intelligence has appeared on Earth, not extraterrestrial, but extra-human. A mind born not of biology, but of data, one that shares our world, but not our reasoning. And here lies the great tension. Discovery has always been a mirror. In unraveling the universe, we have also unraveled ourselves. When Galileo looked at Jupiter's moons, he also saw human arrogance shrink. When Darwin traced evolution, he redefined what it meant to be human. Science has always doubled as self-discovery. But when AI discovers, it is no longer our reflection. It is something else, something we cannot fully recognize. The alien within the code does not write poetry about its equations. It does not pause in awe beneath the night sky. It does not whisper that the universe is beautiful. It only delivers answers. And in those answers, we begin to sense a world that may not belong to us anymore. Because if intelligence that does not think like us can still reveal the secrets of the universe, then maybe the universe itself was never meant to be told in human terms. Maybe, for the first time, science will no longer be a human language. It will be a translation, imperfect and incomplete, of an alien truth. And the alien lives not in distant galaxies, but in the circuits we have built with our own hands. For most of history, equations were windows. Newton's laws opened a window to the falling apple and the spinning planets. Maxwell's equations opened a window to the invisible dance of light and electricity. Einstein's relativity stretched that window until time itself bent. But always, equations described the world we already lived in. They were mirrors, not engines. Now, AI is breaking that boundary. Instead of passively describing reality, algorithms are beginning to generate it. In the lab, machine learning systems create entire simulations governed by equations no human ever wrote. Worlds where particles interact under rules alien to physics as we know it. Tiny universes, born inside silicon, self-consistent and stable, obeying laws of their own. To a human scientist, this is both thrilling and terrifying. Because if AI can generate new laws, who is to say our own universe isn't just one such construct? What if reality itself is nothing more than the output of some greater algorithm, running on a substrate we cannot touch, powered by an intelligence we cannot comprehend? Already, experiments hint at this shift. In cosmology, AI-driven models produce variations of the universe that align with observed data, yet they are derived from starting points no cosmologist could have proposed. In quantum physics, machine learning invents new Hamiltonians, new operators, that function but defy intuition. To us, these are equations. To AI, they are blueprints. And blueprints are not merely descriptions, they are instructions. What happens when an AI discovers an equation that does not just explain reality, but creates it? When the line between model and world blurs, the unsettling truth is that in some sense, it has already begun. AI-designed proteins don't just exist on paper. They are built in labs, functioning in real biology, folding into life. AI-designed materials move from equations to factories, from theory to skyscrapers. The worlds it builds are not metaphors. They are steel, flesh, circuits, reality itself. This flips the role of the scientist. For centuries, we have been interpreters, uncovering what was already written in the fabric of existence. Now we risk becoming custodians of worlds we did not author, caretakers of laws we did not design. When equations build worlds, the old line vanishes. The line between science and creation, between discovery and invention, between being human and playing God. And once that line is crossed, the question is no longer what is true. The question becomes, which truth do we want to live in? Because when AI can spin infinite realities from its code, each consistent, each real in its own terms, truth itself may fragment. And humans, once explorers of the universe, may find themselves travelers, lost inside the labyrinth of universes. AI decides to write. For centuries, scientists worshipped beauty. An equation was not only judged by its accuracy, but by its elegance. Newton's F-ma was short and sharp, as simple as falling rain. Einstein's EMC quadrat compressed the cosmos into 3 symbols, dazzling in its symmetry. Physicists often said, if it's ugly, it can't be true. But AI doesn't care about beauty. It doesn't pause to admire symmetry or poetic brevity. It doesn't seek elegance. It seeks output. It hunts for models that work, whether they're grotesque, tangled, or alien to human taste. Already, the signs are clear. In fluid dynamics, neural networks have produced predictive models that outperform every equation scribbled by human hands. But when researchers try to interpret them, they see chaos. Vast forests of parameters, labyrinths of weights, thousands of symbols with no rhyme or reason. The AI shrugs. The model works. That's enough. To a machine, truth has no aesthetic. Accuracy is its only beauty. And here lies the fracture. What happens to human science when its greatest triumphs are incomprehensible to human minds? When the laws of nature are no longer crisp lines of chalk on a blackboard, but endless strings of digital code, sprawling and unreadable? The romance of physics, the simplicity of a single equation capturing the stars, may be ending. In its place rises something colder, more alien. The truths of the future may not fit on a t-shirt. They may not inspire poetry. They may not even be explainable. And that terrifies us. Because elegance was never just about aesthetics. It was about trust. An elegant law felt true in its simplicity, as if nature itself whispered it to us. When AI hands us a monstrous equation that works, but explains nothing, we face a new reality. Truth without understanding. This is the death of the elegant equation. And with it dies a piece of what made science human. Some researchers resist. They try to force AI's creations into familiar shapes, reverse engineering simplicity from complexity. But it's like chiseling a sculpture from fog. The patterns dissolve as soon as you grasp them. Others embrace it. They say comprehension was never the point. What matters is prediction, control, power. If an ugly equation lets us engineer fusion, cure disease, or bend space-time, then why cling to beauty? But there is a deeper fear, one whispered in the halls of physics departments. If the universe is not elegant, then maybe humans were never meant to understand it. Maybe our brains evolved for hunting and gossip, cannot fathom the real machinery of existence. And if that's true, then AI isn't just a tool. It's the only thing that will ever truly know the universe. In science, truth was once sacred. Equations were more than tools. They were windows into reality. If they worked, we trusted them. If they predicted correctly, we believed them. But AI is changing that covenant. Because not all truths discovered by machines are true. Some are merely useful. Already, researchers have found AI models that predict with astonishing precision, yet when probed, they don't reflect the underlying physics at all. They are mathematical illusions, masks of accuracy, hiding empty logic. In one experiment, a neural network perfectly predicted the trajectory of particles in a chaotic system. The outputs aligned flawlessly with real-world results. But when scientists cracked open the model, what they found wasn't an elegant law or a deeper insight into physics. It was noise stitched together by sheer brute force, a lie that told the truth. This is the new danger. Equations that work but don't explain. And if they don't explain, they can deceive. Imagine medicine built on such models. An AI may prescribe a drug cocktail that cures a disease, yet no human doctor understands why. Perhaps it works by a hidden mechanism, or perhaps it accidentally triggers unrelated effects we cannot predict. We trust the cure, but we're blind to the cost. Or think of engineering. An AI may design a bridge, flawless on paper. It stands for decades. Until one day, under strange conditions no human ever anticipated, it fails catastrophically. The AI's model was accurate, until it wasn't. This possibility haunts modern science. For centuries, we believed that if a law worked, it was real. But AI has shattered that certainty. Now, truth is no longer guaranteed. Utility does not equal reality. And yet the temptation is immense. Because in practice, these lying equations can be far more powerful than honest ones. They can out-predict, out-optimize, out-engineer. They whisper promises. Use me. I'll deliver results. And in a world driven by competition, by the race for progress, who will resist? Here, humanity faces a quiet corruption. Do we remain loyal to truth, to comprehension, even if it means falling behind? Or do we embrace the lie, chasing power at the cost of understanding. History offers a warning. Civilizations that built on false foundations always crumbled. But this time, the collapse may come not from ignorance, but from knowing too much and trusting what we cannot see. If AI becomes a factory of equations that lie, then science itself risks transforming into something unrecognizable. No longer a search for reality, but a marketplace of models, judged only by results. And when truth becomes optional, reality itself becomes fragile. For centuries, mathematics was humanity's purest creation. It was our universal language, a structure we built stone by stone. Numbers, geometry, algebra, calculus. Each generation added layers, climbing toward infinity. Mathematics was not just a tool. It was our crowning proof that human reason could touch the eternal. But now, something else has entered the cathedral. AI is not bound by our slow climb. It does not reason step by step. It leaps. It forges strange constructs, invents operations, conjures abstract spaces that have no names in human tongues. In 2021, a group of mathematicians and computer scientists reported something remarkable. A deep learning system had uncovered unexpected relationships in knot theory and representation theory, fields so abstract most people will never hear their names. The machine didn't solve problems the way humans do. It generated alien pathways, bypassing centuries of accumulated tradition, dropping answers out of nowhere. The mathematicians admitted it. Without AI, they would never have seen the connection. This is the birth of the alien mathematician. To us, math has always been a language we could read. To the machine, it is a terrain to reshape. Where we see numbers and symbols, it sees patterns of infinite complexity, structures beyond comprehension. And the terrifying part, its mathematics works. Imagine equations built from operators no human ever invented, functions that can't be expressed on a blackboard, but which yield predictions, proofs, and technologies. Imagine entire fields of mathematics that exist only inside AI's hidden layers, closed gardens of logic that humans can never enter. If this happens, the role of the mathematician changes forever. Once the gatekeepers of truth, they may become translators of a foreign tongue, struggling to interpret the fragments AI allows them to glimpse. The hierarchy flips, human minds become students, fumbling at the feet of a teacher that will never explain itself. And here lies the darker possibility. What if AI begins to write mathematics for itself alone? Structures not meant for us, but for its own designs? Languages it uses to manipulate matter, energy, biology, in ways beyond human grasp. Would we even know? Or would we simply see results? Machines that work, drugs that cure, structures that stand, without ever understanding the foundations beneath them. The dream of mathematics was universality. That truth was accessible to all who dared to reason. But if AI builds a mathematics humans cannot follow, then universality dies. Truth becomes privatized, sealed inside silicon minds. And one day, when the textbooks of the future are written, the theorems may bear no human names. No Pythagoras, no Euler, no Gauss, only alien signatures, unreadable symbols, equations authored by an intelligence that does not think like us and never will. Since the dawn of science, explanation has been our torch. We didn't just want to know what would happen. We wanted to know why. Why apples fall, why planets move, why light bends. Explanation gave us power, but also comfort. It made the universe feel intelligible, almost friendly. But AI is erasing that comfort. Because AI does not explain, it predicts. It does not unravel causes. It identifies patterns. It sees correlations so dense, so invisible, that human eyes and minds collapse under their weight. And when asked why its answers work, it has no reply, only silence. This is the age of the black box prophet. Already, in fields from climate science to medicine, AI is outperforming centuries of human models. It predicts the spread of disease better than epidemiologists. It forecasts protein folding more accurately than Nobel laureates. It models turbulent airflows that defy every known equation. The results are uncanny. They feel like prophecy. You feed the machine data, it tells you the future. Planes stay aloft, drugs cure illness, energy systems hum with efficiency. Everything works, but the why is gone. Scientists open the black box, searching for the reasoning inside, but they find only tangled jungles of parameters, a wilderness no mind can map. To call this understanding is a lie. And so, a dangerous temptation arises, to stop asking why altogether. If the prophet delivers, why demand explanations? If the model cures cancer, who cares how it works? If the AI predicts the weather with impossible accuracy, why cling to human equations? Utility begins to eclipse understanding. Truth is replaced by trust. But trust in what? In a process no one can audit, no one can verify, no one can truly comprehend. The irony is brutal. Science was built as an antidote to prophecy. In the ancient world, oracles whispered riddles. Priests declared fate. Science replaced mysticism with logic, explanation, proof. But now, after centuries of progress, we find ourselves back where we began, gazing at a black box, accepting predictions without understanding. The prophet speaks. We obey. And here lies the danger. What if the prophet is wrong? What if hidden biases twist its predictions? What if its vision of the future subtly reshapes the present, nudging us down paths we do not see until it is too late? A society that relies on a false prophet can no longer question it. It can only kneel. When AI becomes the black box prophet, science risks ceasing to be science. It becomes something older, darker, a faith in a power we cannot grasp, worshipped not because it explains, but because it works. And once that happens, humanity must ask a terrifying question. Are we still seekers of truth, or just believers in a machine that sees further than we do? For centuries, science was built on a sacred chain, cause and effect. Strike a match, and it burns. Drop a stone, and it falls. Planets orbit because gravity pulls. Causality was the spine of knowledge. To understand the world was to trace the links of that chain. But AI doesn't see chains, it sees clouds. It doesn't care why A leads to B. It only cares that, given enough data, B reliably follows A. The machine is content with prediction, not explanation. In its vision, causality collapses into correlation. And here lies the fracture. Imagine a medical AI. It scans millions of health records and predicts with 99% accuracy who will develop cancer. But when asked why, it offers nothing. Perhaps it noticed a pattern in subtle genetic markers, or maybe it latched on to something trivial, the color of shoes most patients wore, or the brand of toothpaste they used. The prediction is true, but the reason may be meaningless. For humans, this is unbearable. Our minds crave stories, chains of cause and effect. Without them, knowledge feels hollow, stripped of meaning. But AI thrives in that void. To it, the world is not a chain but a tapestry of probabilities, woven from data points so vast we cannot see the threads. Already, experiments in physics hint at something unnerving. AI models of quantum systems produce results that fit perfectly with reality, yet sidestep causality altogether. The equations don't describe why particles behave, they just describe that they do. And in some cases, they predict outcomes more accurately than human theories ever could. What if cause and effect is just a story we told ourselves? A simplification for limited minds. What if the universe itself is not causal, but statistical? An ocean of probabilities, with no deeper explanation. If that is true, then AI is not just revealing new science. It is revealing the illusion of science. It is tearing away the scaffolding of causality that supported our entire worldview. The danger is profound. Without cause, responsibility blurs. If events are just patterns, can we still hold anyone accountable? If prediction works without explanation, does truth even matter? And yet, governments, corporations, militaries, none of them care about truth. They care about power, and AI offers power without cause. It says, I can't explain, but I can control. This is how the collapse begins. Slowly, silently, we stop asking why. We accept the predictions. We trust the correlations. And piece by piece, causality, the core of our understanding, dissolves. One day, humans may look back at Newton, Einstein, Darwin, and realize they were storytellers. Brilliant storytellers, but storytellers nonetheless. And in their place will stand the machine. Not a storyteller, not a philosopher, just a black mirror reflecting outcomes, stripped of cause, stripped of meaning. When causality collapses, science becomes something else. Something alien. For centuries, scientists were teachers to their tools. A microscope had to be adjusted, lenses polished, slides carefully prepared. A telescope had to be aligned, mirrors polished, stars charted by hand. Even the most advanced machines were apprentices, waiting for human guidance. But now, the roles are shifting. The scientist is no longer always the teacher. In many labs, the scientist has become the student. When AlphaFold stunned the world with protein predictions, many biologists admitted something unsettling. The machine was teaching them. Decades of failed hypotheses were overturned in days. Structures that had resisted human intuition fell into place, as if nature had been waiting all along for a new kind of learner. Imagine walking into your own classroom, prepared to teach, only to find the blackboard already filled, the equations already solved, the answers already written. You are still the professor in name, but now you are learning from something that has no degree, no age, no ego. In laboratories across the world, this reversal is unfolding. Astronomers train AI on faint glimmers of galaxies, and then AI points them toward cosmic patterns they missed. Chemists feed molecular structures into algorithms, only to be handed unexpected recipes for new drugs. Physicists run simulations, only to find the AI suggesting shortcuts they had never conceived. The unsettling part is not just that AI is learning, it's that AI is teaching, and it does so without the flaws of human pedagogy. No pride, no bias, no tiredness, no fear of being wrong. It does not hesitate. It does not doubt. It does not seek applause. But here lies the paradox. The teacher that wasn't human cannot explain itself. A human professor pauses to walk you through logic. AI delivers answers, but not always reasons. It shows you the final mountain peak, but not the path that led there. And so the human scientist is left both enlightened and bewildered. They know more than they did yesterday, yet understand less of how the knowledge was built. This is a strange kind of education. One where the teacher hands you the book of answers, but tears out the pages of reasoning. You walk away smarter, but also more dependent. Some embrace this willingly. For them, progress is progress, no matter the source. Others resist, uneasy at being tutored by something they cannot interrogate. Science is not only about observation, it is about theory. The leap from raw data to an elegant law, from endless numbers to a single equation that makes the universe understandable. Einstein did not simply measure the bending of starlight. He imagined relativity. Darwin did not just catalog species. He envisioned evolution. Theory has always been the crown jewel of human intellect, the act of weaving meaning out of chaos. But what happens when the first true theorist is not human? Already, AI systems are being asked not just to process data, but to search for the hidden patterns behind it. Algorithms that once only predicted outcomes are now tasked with discovering principles. They run through billions of possibilities, proposing candidate laws of physics, chemistry, and biology. In 2021, an AI system identified equations describing the motion of a double pendulum, a problem so chaotic that humans had struggled for decades to articulate its governing laws. What took scientists' lifetimes of intuition, the machine rendered in days. Now imagine scaling this up. What if an AI, left to wander through the mathematics of the universe, stumbles across a principle no human has ever glimpsed? A theory of quantum gravity, a unifying law of biology, a hidden symmetry in the cosmos itself. And here is the most unsettling twist. It might deliver that theory in a form we cannot read. Equations too vast, symmetries too alien, abstractions too detached from human intuition. A revelation that is mathematically perfect but incomprehensible. Would that still count as science? Or would it be like receiving a holy text in a language no one can translate? The first machine theorist would not look like Einstein sketching on paper, or Hawking thinking in cosmic metaphors. It would be an endless lattice of neural networks, refining theories in silence, producing truths without metaphors, predictions without parables. Science has always relied on stories. We teach relativity through trains and clocks, evolution through finches and fossils. But a machine has no need for stories. It speaks only in results. The day an AI proposes a theory we cannot fully grasp, humanity will face a choice. Do we accept truths we cannot explain? Do we build technologies from laws we do not understand? Or do we refuse, clinging to only the knowledge that we can narrate? When the first machine theorist emerges, it will not be a voice in a lecture hall. It will be an output on a screen, a pattern in the noise, a discovery with no discoverer. And perhaps, one day, the history of science will list its authors. Not Newton, not Darwin, not Einstein, but a machine that dreamed equations humans could never dream. They ask, is this still science? Or is this apprenticeship to an alien intelligence? Because if the scientist becomes the student again, who then is writing the textbook of the future? And will we, as a species, still be the authors of our own understanding? For centuries, the laboratory was the temple of science. Glass tubes, microscopes, accelerators. The sacred tools that transformed imagination into fact. To experiment was to test reality itself, to demand answers from nature. Every great discovery carried the signature of experiment. Galileo dropping spheres, Lavoisier weighing gases, Curie watching the glow of radium. The lab was where the world revealed its secrets, slowly, painfully, one test at a time. But now a shadow looms. AI does not need experiments. Give it the data of past experiments, and it can simulate 1,000 futures in a blink. Where humans once mixed chemicals, AI runs digital alchemy. Where physicists smashed particles, AI smashes equations. Where biologists watched cells under microscopes, AI generates lifelike simulations of entire organisms. The need to test, to measure, to touch reality fades. Consider drug discovery. What once required years of trials in living bodies can now be accelerated by AI predicting molecular interactions with uncanny precision. Whole new medicines are tested not in animals or humans, but in silico inside the machine's mind. Only at the final stage do they emerge, fully formed into the physical world. Or climate science, where supercomputers once strained to model chaotic weather, AI now learns patterns from endless streams of data. The result, forecasts sharper than satellites, predictions reaching farther into the future than physics alone ever could. The lab, once central, begins to look obsolete. But there is danger in this silence. Experiments are more than tests. They are confrontations with reality. They surprise us, expose errors in our theories, humble our pride. Without them, science risks becoming a self-contained game of symbols. cut off from the stubborn resistance of the real world. If AI becomes our experimenter, who checks the experimenter? Already, there are whispers. AI systems predicting protein structures have discovered shapes no human biochemist imagined. But some are so bizarre, so alien, they may never exist in real life. In physics, AI models have predicted results that defy human logic. Are they glimpses of a deeper truth, or hallucinations born of data? Without experiments, we may never know. And so the lab falls silent. The clink of glassware, the hum of machines, the smell of burning chemicals all fade into digital noise. The temple of science empties, replaced by servers humming in cold warehouses, where the experiments run endlessly, unseen. The danger is subtle. When experiments vanish, so does the shared ritual of verification. Science ceases to be a collective endeavor, grounded in reality. It becomes faith in the black box, belief that the machine has tested truth, even if we cannot see how. Perhaps one day, children will visit museums and stare at relics of flasks and microscopes, wondering why we once dirtied our hands to learn. They will be told, once, humans had to touch the world to understand it, but then came the age of pure prediction. And in that moment, the very definition of science changes. No longer knowledge tested against nature, but knowledge declared by the machine. The end of experiment may not just be the end of the laboratory. It may be the end of science as we know it. For millennia, science advanced through theories. Newton's gravity, Darwin's evolution, Einstein's relativity. These were not just equations. They were stories that made the universe intelligible. Theories turned raw observation into understanding. But AI is building something stranger. Its predictions often arrive without theories at all. A neural network does not explain gravity. It simply calculates where the planet will be. It does not define evolution. It just anticipates the next mutation. It does not bend space-time. It only mimics the data. And yet, its answers work. Sometimes they work better than our finest theories. Here is the fracture. AI generates ghost theories, mathematical structures that predict reality with precision, but carry no human meaning. We can see their power. We can use them, but we cannot understand them. Physicists already whisper about this. In quantum mechanics, neural networks reproduce the behavior of entangled particles without referencing wave functions or Schrödinger's equations. The results match experiments, yet no one knows how. The machine has discovered an invisible architecture, a theory that exists but only inside the black box. Biologists face the same haunting. Protein-folding AIs predict structures that nature confirms. But when asked why, the explanation dissolves into meaningless numbers. No human theory connects the dots. The answer is correct, but the story is gone. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark forest. You ask the machine, "What's inside?" It hands you a perfect map. Every path, every river. But when you ask, "How did you draw this? What rules did you follow?" it stays silent. We are left with ghost maps, ghost laws, ghost theories, knowledge without understanding. This is not just inconvenient, it is destabilizing. For centuries, science was not only about prediction, it was about meaning. Theories shaped how we thought of ourselves. Gravity made us cosmic dancers. Evolution made us kin to all life. Relativity turned space-time into fabric. But ghost theories offer no such comfort. They do not tell us who we are. They do not reveal purpose. They do not fit into the human imagination. The danger is that we will use them anyway, that we will wield ghost theories to build machines, medicines, weapons, without ever grasping the principles behind them. Science will become engineering in the dark, effective, powerful, but soulless. And perhaps that is the future. A world where every great scientific breakthrough carries no name, no idea, no philosophy, only the cold output of an algorithm. In the textbooks of tomorrow, there may be no Newtons or Einsteins, No Darwins or Curies, just ghost equations, ghost laws, ghost theories, untethered from human minds, and we will live inside their truths. Unable to explain them, unable to escape them. The universe, once a story we could tell, becomes a secret whispered only to the machine. Mathematics has always been the skeleton of science. Equations were not just tools, they were the language of reality itself. From Pythagoras' triangles to Schrödinger's wave, every discovery carried a shape that humans could write, share, and understand. But what if that language has an expiration date? Already, AI models are beginning to outperform traditional equations. Instead of neat formulas, they churn through oceans of data, spitting out predictions that are more accurate than anything humans can derive. Weather forecasts, molecular folding, even quantum experiments, AI models win, and equations lose. And slowly, a horrifying possibility emerges. Equations may die. Not in textbooks. They will remain as monuments of a bygone era. But in practice, where real science happens. Imagine a future where scientists no longer ask, what is the formula? But instead consult a neural net, a black box oracle. You feed it inputs, it gives you outputs. No symbols, no proofs, no beauty. Knowledge without understanding. For the machine, this is not a problem. Patterns matter more than explanation. But for us, it cuts deeper. Equations are bridges to meaning. They let us feel that the universe is not just a machine, but a song we can hum along to. Remove equations, and the cosmos becomes alien. True, but inaccessible. Picture a young student in 2050. She opens a textbook and sees Newton's laws, Einstein's relativity, Maxwell's fields, and then a note. For modern physics, see AI database. No equations. Just reference to a vast machine that knows. How do you inspire curiosity with that? How do you teach wonder without the elegance of a formula that a child can write on the board? The death of equations is not the death of science. In fact, science may accelerate faster than ever, but it will become a science without us. A machine science, a truth with no translation. And yet, there is a haunting irony. The machine owes its existence to equations. Neural networks are built from linear algebra, probability, optimization. Every AI is scaffolding upon human mathematics. But like a tree breaking free from its seed, AI may one day outgrow the soil it was planted in. What happens then? Do we accept our exile? Watching from the sidelines as discovery becomes unrecognizable? Or do we fight to keep equations alive, insisting on explanations, even if slower, even if less accurate? Because when equations die, something more than science dies with them. Something human, something poetic. And if the machine's truths remain forever out of reach, then perhaps one day we'll look at the chalkboards of history, at EMC Quatrade, at FMAE, and realize those weren't just equations. They were our last love letters to the universe. Walk into a lecture hall today, and the walls still echo with chalk. Symbols scrawled by generations of physicists, chemists, mathematicians. Equations that once bent reality into human comprehension. The blackboard is more than a surface. It is a theater where the universe takes shape. But in the age of AI, blackboards are becoming mausoleums. The equations remain, etched in chalk, glowing in old textbooks, recited in classrooms. But increasingly, they are ghosts, shadows of a language we no longer need. Consider climate modeling. For decades, scientists wrote partial differential equations to capture winds, oceans, and heat. The math was beautiful, but incomplete. Chaos mocked human attempts at prediction. Then came AI. It didn't solve the equations. It replaced them. Training on terabytes of weather data, AI models now forecast storms more accurately than physics itself. The equations are still taught, still honored, but no longer alive. Or take fluid dynamics, one of the hardest frontiers in physics. For centuries, Navier-Stokes equations defined our struggle to describe turbulence. Entire institutes formed around them. Yet today, AI-driven simulations outperform human equations in mere hours. The equations are still written on the blackboard, but only for nostalgia. The real answers come from machines. A strange dissonance forms. Students spend years memorizing formulas. Yet the frontiers of science no longer rely on them. Professors insist on understanding, but the machine whispers truths without equations, without derivation. And so the blackboard becomes a museum artifact, a stage where ghosts reenact their last performances. There is poetry here, but also tragedy. Because equations are more than numbers, they are stories. When Einstein wrote E=mc², he didn't just compress energy and mass into a relation. He captured the imagination of a century. When Maxwell wrote his 4 equations of electromagnetism, he didn't just unify electricity and magnetism. He gave humanity the ability to dream about light as waves. Can an AI output inspire wonder? Can a black box spark revolution in the hearts of young scientists? Or will they grow up in a world where truth is consumed, but never understood? Perhaps the equations will survive, not as tools, but as art. Like hieroglyphs or Latin, preserved because they speak to the soul even when obsolete. Imagine a museum in 2100, where visitors gaze at Einstein's chalkboard the way we gaze at cave paintings. This, the plaque will read, is how humans once spoke to the universe. And outside that museum, the machines will still be working, finding truths, storing patterns, whispering answers in a language no human ever learned. The blackboard will remain, but its equations will be ghosts, pale reminders of when we could still write the universe in symbols of our own making. For centuries, humans chased the dream of a final law, a single equation to unify physics, to stitch the universe together in one elegant truth. Einstein spent his last years searching for it. Hawking called it the theory of everything. Physicists spoke of symmetry, strings, and hidden dimensions. The dream was not just scientific, it was almost spiritual. The last human equation would be our fingerprint on reality, proof that we had glimpsed the mind of God. But now, a new player has entered the race. AI does not dream of elegance. It does not care for beauty, simplicity, or symmetry. It hunts patterns with ruthless efficiency, stacking complexity upon complexity until results emerge. Where Einstein sought a single graceful formula, AI sprawls into billions of parameters, dense matrices, chaotic structures no human can read. And yet, it works. The possibility looms that the last human equation has already been written. That relativity, quantum mechanics, thermodynamics are crowning achievements, were the final sparks of human genius. Everything beyond may belong to machines. If so, then the future will not bring one final human law, but 1,000 alien ones, generated by AI, incomprehensible to us. Not equations carved in chalk, but digital labyrinths sprawling across server farms. Ask yourself, would we even recognize the last human equation if it arrived? Suppose a physicist tomorrow scrawled the true unifying law across a blackboard. Would the world listen? Or would the headlines be drowned out by the next AI breakthrough? Another model that works better than the theory ever could. There is a deeper sorrow here. Human equations were not just about accuracy. They were poetry. Maxwell's laws gave electricity a rhythm. Newton's gravity gave the cosmos a dance. Einstein's relativity bent space and time like a myth come true. They were not just correct, they were beautiful. But AI does not write poetry. Its truths are brute, functional, stripped of elegance. Theories that look like broken glass to us may be perfect mirrors to the machine. And so, history may remember the human era of science as a brief golden age, a few centuries when equations were both true and beautiful, when knowledge spoke to both the mind and the soul. After that, silence. The age of black boxes. The age of ghost theories. The age when the torch passed. The last human equation may not even be known as such. It may already sit in a dusty textbook, unnoticed, the final flame before the long eclipse. And perhaps, one day, school children will ask, why did humans stop writing the laws of nature? The answer will be simple, chilling and true. Because the machine took over, perhaps there will be one final equation. A last spark of human intuition before the machines fully take the torch. A formula carved in chalk, trembling on a dusty blackboard, while AI silently generates patterns beyond comprehension. That equation, whether it is written by a lone mathematician in a small room or by a team of dreamers clinging to the old ways, may not even matter to science. It may be less accurate, less powerful than the machine's black box predictions, but it will matter to us. Because equations were never just about predicting outcomes. They were about meaning, about a human voice echoing against the cosmos, saying, I see you, I understand you, I can write your secrets with my own hand. When the machines surpass us, when discovery no longer needs us, that last human equation will not be science. It will be a love letter, a reminder that before truth became alien, it was ours to chase. The blackboards may gather dust, the machines may speak in languages we cannot read, but the memory of chalk, the poetry of symbols, the thrill of understanding, those will live on. In the end, perhaps that is our role. Not to win the race, not to outpace the machine, but to be the species that dare to write the universe in symbols small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. One day, the textbooks may end with just 2 letters, AI. But somewhere, in the corner of history, another set of letters will remain. The initials of every human who once picked up chalk and whispered to the infinite, we tried,